high-ranking government official has been caught selling her public office, threatening national security, and engaging in a massive criminal cover-up. She is likely to be under investigation for many, many years, also likely to conclude in a criminal trial. This is not what we need in this country, folks.
Do we want this man appointing judges? Do we want him controlling the Justice Department? Well, people who are voting for him, that's what they would get.
Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump on the trail today as we get the information about the investigations moving forward with the Clinton Foundation and the email investigation. We are still getting WikiLeaks every day by the thousands. Here is one from Jennifer Palmieri, March 4th. Cheryl is working with state to get an agreement on the release of 55,000 pages of emails. She have to state the hope would be that we are able to say tonight to the press that we are working with state to get emails released soon. Not sure where those discussions will land, but hope it's either state agrees to release on timely basis or we pledge to release them ourselves in 10 days to a week. Jim Margolis responds, if there is a release of 55,000, are there others that are not being released? Joel Bennison, an advisor, responds, definitely. Palmieri then responds separately, 55,000 is an entire batch of emails she gave to state, so that represents all of the email that was official business. Only emails we would not be making public are her truly personal ones. Mandy Grunwald writes, do we have a definition of truly personal? Family, friends, are Huma, Philippe, Cheryl, etc. included in the 55,000? Here's what I asked her in March of last year.
What we turned over were more than 30,000 emails that I assumed were already in the government system, Brett, because they were sent to state.gov addresses.
Sure, but there were some that were just recently discovered and turned over.
No, that was in the State Department, not in me.
Okay.
I've turned over everything.
Okay, let's bring in our panel. Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Susan Page, Washington bureau chief at USA Today, and Charles Hurt, political columnist for the Washington Times. Okay, Judge, first about all that we've learned and kind of put it in context here.
Well, we have learned that the FBI made a mistake when it terminated the investigation on July 5 on the basis of what it then knew. The stated reason by FBI Director Comey was no prosecutor would take the case. We have learned that no grand jury was hearing evidence or observing testimony, and we have learned that FBI agents felt that they couldn't conduct an investigation as broadly as they want. We know that because the investigation was reopened last week because of more material that came into their hands. Some by a variety of sources. Some from other cases, like the Anthony Weiner case. Some from cases that the Wall Street Journal talked about, like surveillance tapes of people who were doing business with the Clinton Foundation, which also tipped off the email. We also know that Mrs. Clinton was not true to you, was not being honest to you, and not being honest to the public when she said that everything has been returned. And we know that her own advisors speculated that she was not being honest about saying everything that was returned. And finally, we know with near certainty, not absolute certainty, but near certainty, that foreign intelligence agents hacked her emails. Those agents of foreign governments that wish us well, like Israel, and those agents of foreign governments that wish us ill, like Russia, China, and Iran.
Yeah, I think they're in the process of digging in and with a cyber team to try to find those fingerprints, but they're very tough to do. The other thing we're learning, Susan, is the split within not only the FBI and DOJ, but within the FBI itself about these two-track investigations, the email and the foundation.
We do. We hear reports like your report, talking to FBI sources affiliated with the FBI or knowledgeable about the FBI.
And inside, James Rosenthal.
Yeah, saying that they want to pursue investigations. They feel there's ground to pursue it. They're eager to do it. But we also hear from other sources reported by ABC and NBC that there are people in the FBI who do not feel like these are leads that are particularly substantial and we're pursuing in an aggressive way. What's extraordinary is that this debate is going on in public, that we have anonymous sources on both sides talking to reporters.
How does it play? How does it sink in?
Well, I think it reinforces, for so many voters, it reinforces the concerns they have about Hillary Clinton. It's certainly not helpful for her, whatever the facts are within the FBI. And I think it must be alarming to some within the FBI to have this be so public? Because, of course, these kind of debates go on, I think, routinely when there are investigations underway, but they're usually going on in private.
No, that's true. And the split that we're talking about, some of it has to do with an anger inside there about these investigations and where they have gone or not gone.
Yeah, and the pressure that obviously Director Comey was under between the time that he made the announcement in July and when he announced that he was going to reopen. But, you know, stepping back, I mean, it's really hard to overstate how extraordinary this situation is. You have someone running for president who's, by a lot of polls, looks like she's going to win, or is at least ahead in the polls right now by a small margin, who is going to go in under criminal investigation by the federal government that she's then going to take control over. You already have conversations about impeachment proceedings. You have real questions about if she is elected, does President Obama then pardon her before she becomes president, or does she pardon herself? I mean, it's truly an extraordinary situation.
But some of that has, you know, obviously Republicans jumping on that in an effort to stoke the political flame. Here is Vice Presidential nominee Tim Kaine on all of this today.
People are throwing the impeachment word around before the election has even taken place. I mean, first, it kind of suggests a little bit of defeatism, like, well, we think we're probably going to lose. Second, it also suggests a really bad view of what the role of a legislator is. Same about this investigation stuff. You know, I thought legislators were supposed to legislate. I mean, investigations are part of it, but the real issue is legislation.
Judge?
Well, in fairness to Senator Kaine, there are Republicans who have said we have enough investigations, assuming Mrs. Clinton wins, to last a couple of years. On the other hand, the talk of impeachment, in my view, is grossly premature and highly irregular. The Congress is not going to invalidate the popular will should Mrs. Clinton get elected because of something she allegedly did before she was in office. Charlie's right. President Obama could pardon her. Charlie's right again. She could pardon herself. There would be great political fallout to either of those pardons, but that would certainly insulate her from any political consequences. There was a Supreme Court opinion that did not exist when her husband was being pursued, and that opinion, which involves him on the civil side, Clinton versus Jones, says pretty clearly the president is immunized from the consequences of criminal prosecution while president. So that would prevent her from having to defend herself while she's in the White House, should the FBI and a Justice Department that she would control decide to move against her.
Yeah. On the flip side, Democrats, Susan, pointing to this Wall Street Journal piece about potential problems for Donald Trump and his foreign business entanglements. Those whom Ivanka Trump, Donald Trump Jr., and Eric Trump have worked with abroad include the family of a developer of India, who is the ruling party politician, Azerbaijani government minister's son, and a media company that became the Turkish president's outlet of choice during the July 15th coup attempt. No recent president has had a portfolio of international business interests as extensive as Mr. Trump's, or as great a level of business engagement on his behalf by offspring who have also played a role in his campaign. He says he hands the whole thing over to the kids, and that takes him out.
So whoever gets elected, it's going to be a complicated couple of years, right? And of course, there wasn't, in that Wall Street Journal story, there weren't allegations of impropriety or criminal behavior. It's mostly that how complicated entanglements. It would be how complicated is this going to be. Traditionally, a president would turn it over to his holdings over to a blind trust. That is not what Donald Trump says he would do. He would turn it over to his kids, which does not provide the degree of insulation that we are accustomed to with presidents and their holdings.
Bottom line, we are talking about investigations. We're talking about charges. We're talking about a campaign that has devolved into attacks a lot of times. And there's not a lot of optimism about getting things done.
Oh man, I mean, on both sides, it's all about what's wrong with the other candidate right now, and of course, and as Susan points out, it's going to be complicated no matter what happens, and I think that's one of the things that's kind of helping the Clinton campaign is that this stuff is so complex that it's hard for us to understand it, and we're doing this for a living. For people out there who have real jobs, they really don't sort of understand all the specifics.
We will break down what map we understand, the electoral map, and the polls today. Set the table for Tuesday with the panel after a break.